The first time Clara opened the door, the air smelled faintly of jasmine and rain. I'd taken 2 buses and walked 4 blocks to get there, my umbrella useless against the drizzle that clung to my hair. She stood in the doorway, graceful, composed, in a white shirt tucked into soft gray trousers, her presence so calm it made my nerves worse. "You must be Emily," she said, voice low and warm. "Come in before you drown out there." Her smile was polite, practiced. She looked like someone who had been holding herself together for years. The house behind her was modern but lived in. Children's books on the coffee table, a half-folded blanket on the couch, soft piano music playing from another room. I followed her to the kitchen where sunlight tried to break through the clouds. "Tea or coffee?" she asked, opening a cabinet. "Tea's fine," I said. My voice sounded small, so I added, "I used to nanny for a family uptown. I love kids." Her mouth softened. "Good," she murmured, "because mine is a handful." Her daughter, Lily, appeared then, 6 years old, with curly hair and a paint-smudged dress. She looked at me with suspicion. "Are you the new babysitter?" "Sort of," I smiled. "More like your helper." "She doesn't need a helper," Clara said softly, but Lily laughed and ran to her mother, wrapping her arms around her legs. Her hand rested on the little girl's head, fingers gentle, eyes far away. I saw it in that moment, the exhaustion hidden beneath her grace. That night, after Lily had gone to bed and I was finishing up the dishes, Clara lingered at the kitchen doorway. "Thank you," she said. "You didn't have to clean everything. I like helping." She hesitated, as if wanting to say something else. Then, "You remind me of myself at your age, always trying to fix things." I smiled, unsure what to say. When I left, she walked me to the door. The rain had stopped, leaving everything smelling like wet earth. She said, "See you tomorrow, Emily." And for a second, her eyes softened enough to make my heart skip. Days became weeks. I learned Lily's bedtime stories by heart, and the sound of Clara's footsteps down the hallway. I learned she liked her coffee black and her wine cold. She worked long hours in architecture, sketching at the kitchen table when Lily slept. Some nights, I'd find her there with paper scattered, hair messy, eyes tired. "Can I help?" I'd ask. "You already are," she'd whisper, not looking up. The more time I spent in that house, the more it felt like a quiet world of 3 hearts trying to belong. Clara and I started talking after Lily went to bed. Small things at first, then deeper. She told me about her divorce, how her ex moved abroad, and how silence filled the spaces she couldn't fix. I told her about my art classes, how I wanted to paint stories that felt real. "You already live like one," she said one night, her voice barely a breath. It was late. The lights were dim. A storm tapped gently against the window. She sat across from me, her face soft and tired, yet more beautiful than I had ever seen. "Do you ever miss it, love?" Her lips parted. "Every day." Silence filled the space between us. Not empty, but electric. I looked away before it could break me. After that night, everything changed quietly. She'd brush my hand when passing me a cup. Her gaze lingered longer when I laughed. Lily started teasing us, "Mommy, you talk to Emily more than me." And Clara would blush, hiding her face in her hands. One evening, I stayed late because Clara had a client call. Lily fell asleep early. The house was silent except for rain. Again, always rain. Clara found me folding the blanket on the couch. "You should go home," she said softly. "I don't mind staying," I said. She looked at me for a long time, her breath catching as if she wanted to argue, then stepped closer. "You make this house feel alive again," she whispered. My heart pounded. "So do you." Something unspoken passed between us. A question, a confession, maybe both. She took a shaky breath. "You should still go home." I nodded, but I didn't move. Neither did she. The distance between us was only a few inches, a fragile, dangerous space, the kind that could burn or heal. Her hand brushed mine, deliberate this time. My breath hitched, and when I looked up, her eyes were wet, not from sadness, but from something she'd been holding back too long. "Clara," I whispered. She stepped back suddenly, shaking her head. "Good night, Emily." Her voice trembled, but her face stayed composed. I walked out into the rain again, heart thundering, my skin tingling where her hand had been. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment, the touch, the near confession, the pain in her eyes. I knew what it meant. I knew she felt it too. But she had a daughter, a home, a life that wasn't supposed to change. Still, when I came back the next morning, her eyes found mine like magnets. "Morning," I said. She smiled faintly. "Morning." We said nothing else, but the silence between us was no longer empty. It was alive, breathing, waiting. And somehow, I knew everything was about to change. The week after that night felt like walking through glass. Delicate, dangerous, and beautiful, all at once. Nothing had been said, yet everything had changed. Clara moved through the house, softer than before, careful but aware. When our eyes met, the air between us felt charged, humming with what we refused to say. One evening, Lily had a fever, and Clara called me at midnight. "I didn't know who else to call," she said, voice trembling through the phone. When I arrived, she was sitting by Lily's bed, her hand pressed against her daughter's forehead. "She's burning up," she whispered. "I'll get a cool cloth." We worked together in silence, passing wet towels, holding small hands, whispering to calm Lily's dreams. When the fever broke an hour later, Clara exhaled so deeply it sounded like release. "She'll be okay," I murmured. Clara nodded. "You always know what to do." She looked exhausted, hair loose, face pale, still beautiful. I reached out without thinking, brushing a strand from her cheek. She didn't move away. Instead, she closed her eyes. "Clara," I whispered. Her voice broke softly. "You should go home, Emily." "I don't want to," I said, too honestly. Her eyes opened again, searching mine. "You don't understand what you're doing." "Yes, I do." She looked at me for a long time, and something inside her crumbled. "You shouldn't love me." "I already do." For a moment, the only sound was rain. Again, always rain, falling against the window like it knew our secret. Then, slowly, she reached for my hand. Her fingers were trembling. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Then let me," I said. The world seemed to shrink to that small, quiet bedroom. The sleeping child, the low hum of thunder, the pulse in our joined hands. She stood up, still holding on to me. We walked out into the hallway, our steps silent. The house was dark, except for the dim yellow light spilling from the kitchen. We stopped there, halfway between fear and something that felt like freedom. Her thumb brushed the back of my hand. She took my hand. "You're too young," she murmured, though her voice lacked conviction. "And you're too scared," I whispered back. Something flickered in her eyes. Want, denial, hope, all fighting at once. Then she kissed me. It wasn't planned or graceful. It was trembling and real, her breath catching against mine, her hands uncertain and desperate. The kiss was soft, but full of everything we'd held back. Gratitude, loneliness, need. When she pulled away, her eyes shone with tears. "I didn't do that," she said. "Then don't stop," I said. She laughed, a small, broken sound. "You'll ruin me. Maybe we'll ruin each other." She touched my cheek like she was memorizing me, not just my face, but the moment. Then she kissed me again, slower this time, like she'd made peace with something inside her. That night, we didn't cross lines. We didn't need to. The kiss alone felt like a confession written across our souls. The next morning, she was distant again, polite, almost cold. "Thank you for helping last night," she said as she poured coffee. "You don't have to pretend it didn't happen," I said quietly. Her eyes lifted. "Emily, I have a daughter, a reputation, a life that barely holds together as it is. And I'm not asking you to destroy it. Just stop pretending you don't feel it too." Her lips parted, but no words came out. I left before she could find any. The days that followed were heavy with silence. She avoided being alone with me. I focused on Lily, who noticed nothing but the weather. "Mommy smiles more now," she said one afternoon while drawing. "Does she?" I asked, my heart aching. "She does when you're here," she said matter-of-factly. That evening, Clara asked me to stay for dinner. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly while washing dishes, "for pushing you away." I turned towards her. "You didn't. I'm still here." She smiled faintly. "That's what scares me." "Why?" "Because I don't want you to leave." The confession hung there, fragile but undeniable. I stepped closer, hands trembling slightly. "Then don't let me." Her shoulders softened. "Emily, I can't promise this will be easy. I'm not asking for easy." She turned then, wiping her hands on a towel, and for the first time, she didn't resist when I touched her. My hands rested on her waist, her breath hitched, and she leaned into me, tentative but willing. The kiss that followed was slower, deeper, not just want, but surrender. Afterwards, she rested her forehead against mine. "You make me forget everything," she whispered. "Maybe you're remembering instead," I said. She smiled faintly, a real smile, small and fragile, but full of light. From that night, things changed quietly. We didn't talk about it. We didn't need to. I'd arrive in the mornings and find a cup of tea already waiting. She'd brush her hand against mine when no one was looking. We became experts in stolen glances and secret warmth. One rainy night, because of course it had to rain, Lily stayed with her grandparents. The house felt empty in a way that invited truth. We sat on the couch, a movie playing low. Her hand found mine under the blanket. "I don't want to hide forever," I said softly. She looked at me, eyes full of tenderness. "Then don't." "Clara." She leaned in and kissed me again, slow and deliberate. "Stay tonight," she whispered against my lips. I hesitated, searching her face. "Are you sure?" She nodded. For once, yes. And in that moment, surrounded by rain, warmth, and quiet. The world outside didn't exist. That night felt like a dream we both knew might vanish by morning. The rain had quieted, replaced by the sound of slow breaths and the occasional flicker of thunder in the distance. The house smelled like jasmine tea and storm air. Clara sat on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped, her hair damp and wild from the humidity. "Emily," she whispered, like saying my name was both a comfort and a risk. "I'm here." She turned to face me, not as an employer, not as a mother, but as a woman who had been alone for too long. "I've been afraid of needing anyone," she said, "especially someone who could leave." "I'm not planning on leaving," I said softly. Her eyes searched mine. "People always say that before they go." I reached for her hand. "Then let me prove it differently." She stared at me for a long time, and then her fingers interlaced with mine. Her eyes glistened, not with regret, but relief. The way she leaned into me was hesitant, like testing the edge of safety. Her lips brushed mine, uncertain at first, then steady, the kind of kiss that makes time lose meaning. When we finally broke apart, she rested her head on my shoulder. "I forgot what it feels like to be seen." "You've been seen all along," I said. "You just stopped believing it." For a while, we didn't talk. The quiet was soft, not heavy, the silence of two hearts trying to sync after years of being out of rhythm. Eventually, she smiled. "You're too young to sound like that." "Maybe you make me older," I said. "Or maybe you make me young again." We both laughed, quietly, like we were afraid to wake the moment. When morning came, the light poured through the windows in soft gold, and for the first time, I saw her without the weight she usually carried. Barefoot, coffee in hand, her hair falling loosely over her shoulders, she looked free. She caught me watching her. "What?" "Just you." Her cheeks colored slightly. "Don't start with that." But she was smiling, truly smiling. Lily came home that afternoon, filling the house with laughter again. Clara and I fell into a rhythm that felt like music, normal yet new. Weeks passed. We didn't label it. There were quiet breakfasts, shared glances in the kitchen, late-night talks that dissolved into warmth. But happiness is fragile when it's built on something unspoken. One afternoon, her ex-husband showed up unexpectedly to drop off Lily. I'd never met him before. Tall, polished, all surface charm. He looked me up and down and said, "So, this is the new Nanny?" Clara's hand tightened on the doorknob. "She has a name, Emily." He smirked. "Right, of course. Be careful mixing work and whatever this is." When he left, Clara stood there, her face pale. "Are you okay?" I asked. She nodded, but her voice was quiet. "He doesn't matter." But something had changed. That night, she was distant again, polite smiles, careful space. I wanted to reach for her, but the air between us was thick with fear. The next morning, she said, "Maybe you should take a few days off, just to rest." It wasn't about rest. It was about her trying to pull away before the world noticed what we were becoming. I didn't argue. I just nodded, even though it felt like being erased. Those days felt endless. The apartment was too quiet without her voice, without Lily's laughter. I kept checking my phone, waiting for a message that didn't come. On the fourth night, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Clara stood there, soaked from rain again, as if the storm followed us everywhere. She didn't say a word. She just looked at me, tears mixing with raindrops. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought I could stop loving you. I can't." I didn't move. I just reached for her hand and pulled her inside. The moment she stepped into the light, she broke.
Not from weakness, but from finally letting herself feel. She held me tightly. I don't care what people think. I just want you. You and Lily, that's all I need. My heart pounded. Then you have us. Her breath hitched, and she kissed me, slower this time. Not forbidden, not hesitant. It was real, grounded, the kind of love that had survived fear and doubt. We spent the night wrapped in quiet certainty, not needing words. Morning came, with sunlight this time, not rain. Lily's laughter echoed down the hallway as she ran into the room, jumping onto the bed. "Mommy, you're smiling again," she said, giggling. Clara looked at me over Lily's head, her eyes soft and full of something that felt like forever. "I guess I am," she said, voice trembling with happiness. Later that day, we walked to the park, hand in hand. The world felt wider, kinder, as if it had finally given us permission to exist. She looked at me, sunlight catching in her hair. "You know, when I hired you, I thought I needed help. And now?" I asked, smiling. "Now I know I needed love." I laughed softly, leaning closer. "And you found it." She smiled, that quiet, breathtaking smile that first made me fall. "Yes," she said. "I did." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of rain from somewhere far away. For once, it didn't feel like a warning. It felt like home.